Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. You can find us all over social media on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. And if you're a big fan of the show, you can support us on Patreon. You don't have to, but it is an option for those of you who want to help us out a little bit. That would be amazing. And for all our patrons out there, you guys are amazing. We love you lots. You make it just that much easier to keep the show going, and I hope you know it's appreciated. We're going to keep doing the show regardless, but that little bit of help really goes a long way. So big thank you to our patrons. If you are interested, you can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. We're a proud member of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you're looking for other shows to enjoy, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. And finally, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova. You know that. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, or Letterboxd. It's always just my name, Andy DiGenova. This episode, we are going to be talking about something super. We're talking about Superman and Lois. We are going to discuss the entire run of the show, but specifically Season 4, the final season, and even more specifically, we're going to talk about the series finale for Superman and Lois. And you hear me say we, right now, I'm all by myself. It's weird. It's lonely in the Batcave. But I have a special guest joining me for that super chat, Mr. Sam J. Rizzo, a huge Superman fan and a heck of a nice guy. And so I look forward to talking about Superman and Lois with him. And I think you guys will enjoy it too. Then after we talk about Superman and Lois, I got to clean out some emails, guys. Y'all know that. So I got quite a few sitting in the Wayne Manor mailbox. I'm going to answer a couple of those just to try to stay on top of it. And that's it. So yeah, I'm a little solo, going to be solo at the beginning and at the end, but at least I got Sam joining me for the bulk of the episode, and that's that. So thank you all for joining us. Let's get this party started. It is time to hear me and Sam chat about Superman and Lois. I'm pleased to welcome to Holy BatCast one of the biggest Superman fans I know. And if we're going to talk about Superman and Lois, I wanted someone who loved Superman even more than me. And also just one of the nicest fellows around. Someone that I have been talking to for years, I think trying to get on Holy BatCast. I think this is the first time. It's Sam J. Rizzo. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Andy. Thank you. Thank you for the nice intro. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for coming and making the time. And, you know, it's taken a little bit of a work on both of our parts to make this happen. And I'm glad we finally did.
Yeah, you know, technical difficulties with technology nowadays. Oh, my God.
I know.
Problems. Come on.
It's so sad, but it is what it is. But you have not been on Holy BatCast, right? Like I'm remembering.
This is my first time on Holy BatCast.
That's what I thought. Well, great.
I'm very excited, and I love the podcast, and been listening to you for years. I think we were on one episode a long time ago of a friend of mine's podcast, and I think that's how I was introduced to you. I think it was my buddy Adam Bassiano.
Yes, and Adam had been on my show.
Okay, so yeah.
Once upon a time. And I'll never forget Adam being on my show because it was like the week my grandma died. And so Adam, who I barely knew, I'm like all upset about my grandma. And he's like, Andy, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I just felt bad because, you know, it was one heck of a first chat to have. But yes, yeah, that's right. We met that way, and you and I have been in touch ever since. And I love watching your exploits and your super fandom out there. And so when I knew I wanted to chat about the finale of Superman and Lois, I was like, I wonder what Sam is up to. So I do appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
But I mean, I can't break tradition. It's your first time on Holy BatCast. So you got to think about Batman for just a minute, and you got to tell me your favorite Batman movie and why.
Oh God. The one that I go to all the time, my guilty pleasure to turn on at night and just watch, is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I love that movie. It depicts Batman and that's the quintessential Batman. Who doesn't love Kevin Conroy? He is.
Yes, it's true.
Batman. But in live action, do you want to know live action or?
I mean, both, sure.
Oh,
but
okay.
Honestly, first of all, there's nothing guilty about the pleasure that is Mask the Phantasm. You can hold your head up high.
Yeah, I love Mask of the Phantasm. I mean, I go to sleep watching Batman the Animated Series. Like, that's what I do. I
That's
just
great.
turn it on and leave it on in the background, and like, I mean, that animated series was so good. But live action, because I actually got to see it being made in front of me with here in Chicago, was Batman Begins in
Oh,
2005. So to see the car chase and all that stuff on Lower Wacker being filmed and the Batmobile in front of me was awesome. That was so cool.
that's right. I forgot we have a lot in common aside from just our DC fandom. We're both from Chicago. We both love Darren Hayes.
Yeah, Darren Hayes.
See. So
Yes.
okay, well, I didn't realize you actually witnessed some of the filming for Begins. I think that's great.
Yeah, I saw some of that stuff, and then when the Dark Knight was here, a friend of mine um was close to the production, and this was so funny, and he's a big autograph guy. So he says to me, he goes, Sam, you're like, I'm gonna go and see if I could get like autographs from the cast. What should I get? And I said to him, I go, you know what would be funny, go to the Walgreens over there on Michigan Avenue and grab some playing card decks and
Mm.
take the Jokers out and have Heath Ledger sign. He got Heath Ledger to sign a whole bunch of them.
Wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, that was really cool.
That's very cool. Awesome. I love that. Well, let's shift to Superman. Okay, you love Superman. I know it's not just a hobby for you; it's a way of life. The same way my Batman fandom is.
Yeah, I was 6 years old, 1989, the year of the bats. But for me, it was the year of Superman, and well, Superboy was on the airwaves back in the 80s, early 90s, and my that was my fandom. My father turned on the TV, and the Power Station channel 50 at 4 o'clock. You had the Adventures of Superboy, you had Star Trek: The Next Generation, Dracula the series, and My Secret Identity. So I
Wow. Yeah.
I got lost in sci-fi for a good 2-3 hours. So that was my fandom growing up, and then to for the Superboy series to go away and not be seen again, like in syndication, because it only had one run of syndication.
Mm.
I kind of took it upon myself to like let other fans know, hey, there was another Superman show, out there, because a lot of people forgot. It was Lois and Clark. Everybody was remembering. So,
Yeah.
and Superboy did a lot of firsts, like alternate worlds, Bizarro, Metallo, like, and it was done really, really well on a shoestring budget. So
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching it, and I also now having a soft spot for it because it was all filmed here in Orlando. So now I love watching old episodes and being like, oh, I know where that is, and I know where that is. But yeah, very cool.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we just wrapped up a new Superman series in Superman and Lois.
Yeah, what a series. What a love letter to the character. And it was 4 years, like the final episode's title. It went by way too fast. Way too
Yeah.
fast.
Well, yeah, let's share just overall thoughts on the show before we get to season 4 and especially the finale. Like you said, for 4 years it was. I felt like it just premiered, but 4 years is a respectable, but not exactly a long run for a show. But it's one of those where I think it kind of worked out well. Like, I mean, yes, I would have liked more, but I also feel like it was so strong for all 4 seasons that you got to be happy about that as well. But you already said it was a love letter to the character. Yeah, what are your overall thoughts of the show, all 4 seasons of it?
I mean, from season 1 to all the way to season 4, the quality was amazing. It was movie quality. I mean, it was doing things that the Superman films have never done.
Hmm.
And it was I always say, I was talking about this the other night to my brother Anthony, he's a big Spider-Man fan, but he watched all of Superman and Lois. Like since Smallville, like he's watched everything. So I was telling him, and I was like, Superman and Lois did something that a lot of Superman series haven't done, and that's take everything from the character from the last 80 plus years and distill it down through a crucible and take the parts that work from the character. I mean, the aesthetic of Superman and Lois looked like Man of Steel. I remember the first promo that came out for the series, the CW, and it looked like it was the Man of Steel by Zack Snyder.
Mhm.
But the aesthetic, but the character itself, Tyler Hoechlin, because we were exposed to his character on Supergirl, he was fantastic. He was so good in the role, and it seemed like he took the best parts of each one of the actors that has come before and made it his own. Like he really did a fantastic job. Um, Bitsy Tulloch as Lois Lane, she was amazing. She was his rock as Lois, and I think she is right up there with Terry Hatchard and Erica Durance as one of the best Lois Lanes like we've had to date.
Mhm.
But overall, the series, I mean, from the visual effects to the storylines to um, just the look of it, like the quality never dropped. Even going into that last season where they cut the budget and they had one cast member for this episode and another cast member for that episode because they didn't have everybody, but they made it work. And from episode 1 all the way through that last episode, they really did a fine job with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree with you wholeheartedly. The show, it's it's a very unique take on the character, and yet it also feels so faithful to the character. And I think just because it explores a time in Superman's life that we haven't really explored before, where he and Lois have been married for many, many years. They now have teenage boys. They've moved back to Smallville. There were all these different circumstances that were very unique to this story. And
Mhm.
when the show was starting, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about them having teenage twins because that's so different, right? I don't know how I
Right.
feel about it being based in Smallville full time, but I think it does a lot to really differentiate this version. But as you said, they take bits and pieces and just elements of all these characters, incorporate them in such an organic way that it still feels unmistakably like a Superman story. And
Oh, it makes it feel like, I mean, we talk about Elseworlds and multiverses and all that stuff, and you could take these versions of Superman, Lana Lang, and Lois, and you could, hey, remember Superboy the series when Clark didn't tell Lana that he was Superman for all those years? We got to see that in this, and we got to see the repercussions of that. Like I
mhm.
love that when Clark tells Lana that he's Superman, and that was amazing. And I know we're going to talk about the last episode, but um there was just little moments for the diehard fans that have that these writers and directors went and was like, hey, you know what, like let's put this in here and as an homage to this or to that from past Superman um material. It was just really, really good, just
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, and I just also have to reiterate your points about Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulloch. They are both so good, and they can now stand toe to toe with the very best versions of both of those characters, of both Superman and Lois. From every version that we've seen, they can, they can, they've taken their place amongst them. And I'm not so big on being like, well, they're even better than blank or whatever, but like they're just
Yeah.
so great on their own.
Yeah, I've never been one to say, "Hey, this actor is better than that actor," or this. So all these actors bring their own to these characters. I mean, what I remember one of the interviews prior to Superman and Lois starting, and Tyler Hoechlin gave. I think it might have been to Variety or IGN or one of these websites, and he put it in baseball terms. It's like putting on a baseball jersey and you're going to bat for that team, and you want to do a good job and you want to knock the baseball out of the park, and you don't want to be the one to drop the bat or get hit with the ball. So like I just loved because he's a big baseball guy and I love baseball, and to put that analogy out there and to realize, like, you know what, this is bigger than me, this
Mhm.
character is bigger than me, but I have the responsibility to go out there and do something good with it. And he did. I mean, him and Bitsy, like they were so good in these roles for a decade. And And I just feel like it's a shame that we gotta leave them, because it was just so good, so good.
Has it been 10 years since they first showed up?
I think
Was
it
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 like I know that he showed up in Supergirl originally, but I feel like we didn't meet her until Crisis. Is that correct?
I think it was Crisis. Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
trying to remember what year Crisis was, but
You said
wow.
8 years, 8, maybe 9 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. Man,
Somebody
that
will
is
somebody will
that is quick.
in the comments.
Um, but like, yeah, I mean, it's been such a strong series throughout, and of course, like there are little dips and ups and downs, especially in seasons 2 and 3. I wasn't
Mm.
so into like the cult leader lady. I wasn't
Yeah,
so I don't
yeah,
remember a lot. I just remember being like not so into her, but regardless, through it all, this core cast, especially Tyler Hoechlin, Bitsy Tulloch, and the boys, both versions of Jonathan. When Jonathan number one left and they had to replace him, it was one of those like, like the continuity brain of me always gets bummed out by that. But I feel like the second Jonathan, he did amazingly too, to the point where by the time the series was wrapping up, he was just Jonathan now. So like,
right.
credit to both of them, and then being able to make that switch without it feeling too weird and eventually just feeling organic again. But yeah, I mean that the characters overall. I mean, look at a character like Kyle, who at
Yeah.
the beginning he's such a DB, right? And by the end they make you fall in love with him too. It turns out he's actually a pretty good guy, and like the journey of people like that was unexpected, but I think really made the show work. Like just the characters overall were terrific.
I love that him and Clark became best friends.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really funny. But yeah, it's like you said, it wasn't jarring when the second Jonathan came in. Like they made it work. They
Yeah.
really did make it work, and they didn't make it feel like, oh, here's another actor. Like um they really made it feel like, just like I said, from episode 1 all the way through, like, this is the story, this is what we're trying to do. And I hate when when fans say Superman's not relatable. You can't make Superman relatable. Well, you know what? You can't make Superman relatable if you don't know how to write for Superman. And
Mhm.
Todd Helbing and his team, they did an amazing job making Superman relatable. Where you said it earlier, he's a father, he's older, he's trying to balance being the world's greatest hero with father responsibilities, like raising his 2 kids. Like, Jordan wasn't easy to raise because he had his social anxiety, um and, like, dealing with Lois and being married to her, and having to travel back and forth between Metropolis, well, being in Metropolis, and then later having to travel back and forth, like, and just dealing with everything as a father. Like, it made Superman relatable. This
Mhm.
show made him relatable. Whereas for the longest time, you've always heard, you can't write for Superman. Superman's not relatable. Superman's the blue Boy Scout. He's boring. Blah blah blah. Bull. That's bull.
Yeah,
Really.
I agree. I always feel like that's such a cop out when people say that. It's like he's unrelatable because he has superpowers. No, he still has all the same, you know, struggles and conflicts that any person has trying to take care of their family and try to be the best person they can. Just because he has powers doesn't make it. Yeah, anyway, I
Right.
agree with you. I don't want to get up on a soapbox, but it's such a frustrating thing when
It
people
is.
say that, because it's false. Like, he is still a person, and is going through an emotional journey like anybody else on the planet. And I
Yeah.
think that's something the show did so well, is he's still Superman, right? He's still the most powerful person on earth, and yet so many of the struggles and so many of the obstacles that the show gave him were things that could not be solved by powers,
Right.
which is why Lois was the other half of that equation. How, because she had just as much to do in this show as Superman, which is why it's called Superman and Lois. But I think that they never lost sight of that, and
Mhm.
she never felt like pushed to the side. She was always absolutely 50% of the show right there along with Superman.
And that's being team and being a team and being in a marriage. Like, you got to see what that was like firsthand when they first met in at the Daily Planet. Like, I love that scene. That was we got to see the bumbly Clark. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
that was the Christopher Reeve, like Tyler Hoechlin. Like, it was really cool. And then you got to see him evolve and become more and more assured of himself and more uh the Superman that we know like years later. And him being comfortable. I think the best thing about the series is we got to see Superman finally become comfortable in his own skin as
Mhm.
Superman and as Clark. And I mean, we'll talk about it later in this final episode, but to see Clark come out to everybody and everybody embrace him as Superman, but not call him Superman, Clark. Like, the world knew him as Clark, but Superman. And
Mhm.
especially in Smallville, I loved how they wrote that episode when he comes out to the world, is that the people of Smallville embrace him. And I
Yeah.
love when he's in the diner. That was such a powerful scene when they're all sitting in the diner, and the Candace's father comes in and shoots him, and he does the shirt rip, and like, he in that instance he has to make that choice. Do I reveal that I'm Superman to everybody, or do I just stay Clark? You know?
Mhm.
Um I think there were so many powerful moments in this series that, like, I wish it's pretty sad that the movie franchise and movie writers have never thought of it, you know? And I've said for years as a Superman fan, there are so many graphic novels, there are so many stories over the span of Superman's history that are just waiting to be adapted,
Mhm.
waiting. And
Yeah.
but that moment for me in that series, and the actor who shot him is the actor from the very first episode of Smallville, the
Oh, really?
Scarecrow guy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So it was the
Well,
same actor. Yeah.
I mean, we're starting to get into specifics, so I should put the spoiler warning out. We are going to speak freely about the final season of Superman and Lois. And so for anybody out there listening, I absolutely watch the final season. Really watch all 4 seasons. It's, I said on the last episode with Sean Gerber, like 4 seasons is a pretty low commitment as far as TV shows go. So you can absolutely do that, and they're readily available. But if nothing else, season 4, in my opinion, truly was just pitch perfect from beginning to end. Like, I'm amazed at how they nailed that final season. And so, yeah, we're going to speak freely. We're going to speak specifics. We're definitely going to speak about the finale. So if for some reason you don't want to know or you haven't watched, go watch it. It's really excellent. It's absolutely worth your time. But you've been warned. Before we get to that season, that season, or excuse me, the final season, you mentioned that episode, and I believe it was in season 1, where it was like a series of flashbacks of Superman and Lois's relationship through the years of how they met and how he
Yeah.
told her and all. I forget the name of the episode now, but that episode is like one of the best Superman movies I've ever seen, and it's just an
Oh,
hour of TV, but it's just absolutely excellent, and I loved it because, as you've been saying, like, it shows you all these beats, these familiar moments of what you would expect from Superman and Lois, and basically going, all this stuff has happened, and here's a glimpse of it because it's what got us here to what we're
mhm.
doing now in this show.
Well, I love the what is it, the prologue, or the first 5 minutes of the pilot episode.
Hmm.
I remember I was showing that to a couple people from the Superboy series, and I was like, this is how they should do Superman now. Like, look at this. And they were a lot of, and even some of the writers like Mike Carlin, who I'm friends with, like, when that first 5 minutes came out, they were just like, wow, this is amazing. And I mean, you can't fault Todd Helbing, who is the executive producer of the show. Like, he made it he was inspired by what was going on in his own life as a father, and he
Hmm.
supplemented that. He put that onto the Superman character, and it just worked. It so worked in so many ways. Like, and like it's just it's sad to see the series go. I don't want to see it go.
Yeah, no, I understand. And at the end of season 3, we didn't even know if we would get a season 4. And then they
Right.
announced, you know what, we're going to be able to come back. We're going to come back for 10 episodes. But, the budget had been cut. So at the time, they said, much of the supporting cast will not return.
Mhm.
And I just remember me and friends and fellow fans being like, that's going to be really weird. Like, what are they going to do? How are they going to get rid of most of the cast to save money? And I sure hope that they're up for this. This just sounds weird. I don't know if that's going to work. And then we watched season 4. And as you already alluded to, they did it so masterfully that you don't even notice what they did.
Right.
And that is amazing to me, because they didn't just cut the supporting cast. What they did is they sprinkled in the supporting cast when the story called for it in only a couple episodes each. So nobody has ever really gone for long. They're just not quote unquote regulars anymore. They're guest stars. But
Right.
by bringing them in as guest stars when the story calls for it, it felt organic. And so, Lana and Kyle and Chrissy and John Henry, all of these characters, General Sam Lane, all
Mhm.
these regulars from the previous seasons were just used in just the right way over those final 10 episodes, where you never missed one for long before they came back. And if you didn't know that there were budget cuts, if you weren't a nerd like us and were following stuff like this, I don't think you would have noticed. I think it was done that well.
And they all had their moments. They all
Mm-hmm.
had their emotional moments, either to say goodbye to the fans. They all did.
Yeah, well, and it would have been so easy for them to be like, well, it's called Superman and Lois. Our focus for the final 10 episodes is about the Kents. It's about the 4 Kents, which is
Mhm.
true. But you're right. They also were like, no, we need closure for every other regular. We need closure for Sam. We need closure for John Henry. We need closure for Lana. We need closure for Kyle and Chrissy.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they didn't leave anyone out in those final 10 episodes, my hat's off to them.
Yeah, like I said, the writers, like, this is some of the if you want to take a class in Superman writing 101, just go to the just go to the Superman and Lois writers, because they
Mhm.
really knew what the hell they were doing from the outset.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get tired of hearing writers go, It's impossible to write for Superman." No, it's not. It's not. It's not. Come on.
Yeah.
We have 4 quality seasons of Superman material, and it's just fantastic. And I think this will be this for me as a lifelong Superman fan. This is a series to go back and rewatch over and over and over. And it's just it's sad that it's over. It's so
Yeah.
sad that it's over. So,
Well, they said season 4 they were doing the death of Superman.
mhm.
And season 3 ended with Doomsday emerging. Again, a very interesting spin on Doomsday, in that he was Bizarro and he
And
eventually
what a
became Doomsday.
reveal. What a
Yeah.
reveal. Like, what a, total misdirect. Because I thought when he came out of what is it, the caves there in Smallville, that
Hmm.
it's Doomsday. Because it looked exactly like Doomsday stepping out of the Earth, like in the comics. He had the same suit, looked exactly like it. And I'm like, oh God, they're doing Doomsday. They're doing Doomsday. And then all of a sudden it's Bizarro. And
Hmm.
what a wonderful way to do Bizarro, that we went back and learned about his past and his family and his world and how they were all famous. And it was just, I mean, next to Superboy, I think this was probably probably my favorite depiction of Bizarro, because we got to know him. And what a tragic, out of all the characters on Superman and Lois, what a tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it was all from the machinations of Lex Luthor. So I want to ask you, what do you think of? Is it Michael Cudlitz? Is that how you say his name?
Cutlass, yes, Michael
Um,
Cutlass.
yeah. How did you feel about his Lex?
Oh my God, Biker Lex.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was fantastic. I mean, like, we've never really seen a Lex Luthor like this before, who is just, he is driven by his hatred for not just Superman. We've seen that in the last 80 something years as Lex as a character, and the different versions that we've been accustomed to. but to see his hatred for Lois Lane, like his downright hatred for her and despise of her, like I think that was what was so different about this Lex, is that like he hates that alien flying around like to death, but he hates Lois even more for what he did to her or what she did to him, putting him away for 17 years. I mean, like you really got the sense that it's more about Lois than it was Clark.
Yeah.
Clark's there and is Lois's husband. Yeah. But you know what? Like you to see Lex just lose it on Lois a couple times, and like you should retire or else. Like when he goes to the barn in the one episode and confronts them and says, you know what, Lois, you either retire or something's going to happen to the rest of your family, not just you. And that just the way he put it was really creepy and really sadistic, and he was just so fantastic as Lex, like just pure evil.
Oh, he was. I'll be honest, I'm a little mixed on his Lex, because I think he gives a great performance, and I think he is so scary and threatening.
Yeah.
I just and we eventually got there. I just didn't like the like you call them, like biker Lex, the thuggier Lex with the big scraggly beard, and like I like my Lex to be a little more polished, a little more of the the super smart businessman who's above it all. And this was like a Lex who, he's like out on the streets, and so but like that's not to take anything away from the performance, because the performance was absolutely, like you said, terrifying.
He was terrifying. I mean, he was absolutely terrifying. Though there's a couple shots, I think when he first gets out of prison at Strikers and he's walking across Smallville and the clouds, I'm like, okay, this is a little over the top.
Yeah. But I mean, he's the one who orchestrates Doomsday, and they tease that fight at the end of season 3, and then season 4 picks up right where we left off, and we get an amazingly impressive Superman Doomsday fight. It would be amazing for TV at all, but especially considering it's the CW, and then especially considering it's the season where the budget was cut, I'm just as impressed with the spectacle that they were able to achieve with that fight. It's terrific.
Oh yeah, I was watching. I think I watched that season 3 finale like 2 or 3 times just to see that fight at the end, and it was just so good. And then they picked it up where it left off, and it was just so good. And it put Batman versus Superman to shame. The way Doomsday was, the way Doomsday moved, the way Doomsday looked, like everything. That whole fight with Superman, like. It's like I said before, it put the movie franchise to shame. It did.
I mean, and like the way they even allowed Doomsday to evolve,
right,
is pretty great. Like honestly, but what we saw of him at the very episode 1 of season 4, I was like, oh heck yeah, that's Doomsday. And the fact that he didn't go away completely, he comes back with his final form, and I was like, I already thought he looked great, but then they really went for it for the final battle in episode 10. Like again, doing an interesting spin on the death of Superman, but in a way that we have never seen, and in a way we didn't expect, where Doomsday does kill Superman at the beginning of the season, and then we go an episode or 2 without Superman, where they're trying to bring him back, and then he is brought back in a way that is wholly unique to the show. And I didn't see that coming, but it was like, again, I thought it was so smart. It was clever. It was unexpected no, it's not just the magical Kryptonian healing tank.
Right.
They had Doomsday literally rip out his heart because Lex wanted it as a trophy. Speaking of just what a sadistic bastard Lex was, he wanted Superman's heart on his mantle. And so, like that, causes it's much harder to bring Superman back if he doesn't have a heart. And to use that to bring him back, and then also put that ticking clock of like, he's back, but not forever. I thought it was a really smart way of doing it. And, even you sent me the article of the interview with the showrunners and them talking about like, well, we
Mhm.
wanted to do the death of Superman, and we did, but then we also wanted to do the death of Superman in a very different way, not in the way you would expect. And my God, did they achieve that?
Oh, yeah, I think the last two season 3 and this season is all about mortality, is learning to deal with your mortality and learning to accept and understand what's important. And I know we'll talk about this in the when we talk about the last episode, but it's the moments in your life that are
Mm-hmm.
most important. And I think the moments with Clark and Lois and Lana and all these characters in this final season was like, it was important. It was important to see where these characters will end up. And
Yeah.
I think that was they knocked it out of the park. They really did. They really did. And um you didn't feel shortchanged by anything. Like
No, no.
it was a very nice bookend to such an incredible series. Such
Well, and I think that that's what they did so well is, they know they had 10 episodes, but I feel like that they mapped out those 10 episodes where you knew they were building to an ending, but
Mhm.
it didn't feel rushed either. It was like just enough happened in every episode where you knew it mattered, but you didn't feel like, it's the big complaint about the end of Game of Thrones, which I do kind of. I like it better than most, but I also understand
Uh,
the complaint of like all of a sudden the final season of Game of Thrones is like, and then this, and we're done. And it was just a little too much too quick. And here I just feel like, yeah, every episode mattered, but I thought that it was just perfectly mapped out, so it all just felt right.
it did. It did. And there's one series that I loved. We're gonna get off tangent for a second, but let's talk about, like, there was a series years ago on the CW, Supernatural. Went
Oh
for
yeah.
15 seasons. Was a I mean, some seasons were stronger than others, but like, oh my god, to invest 15 years of your life in a series and that finale be so bad.
Oh
So
really?
it was horrible. Oh my god, it was horrible. I mean, I don't know if you on the Holy BatCast, if we have Supernatural fans, I'm probably gonna get some hate for this, but like, yeah, they should have ended it one episode before. that's,
Wow.
that's
I never watched it, but like obviously, yes, I know enough about it that it was on forever, but I didn't
oh,
realize that it didn't end well.
it did not end well.
Oh. Well, I will say, as far as I'm concerned, like the final season here of Superman and Lois, I think it's pretty flawless. I have very little complaints, and I'll even say that the series finale, the final episode, I think it's one of the best series finales I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, like, it was so strong. It was so strong. By the end of it, I've watched it twice already. I watched it the initial night, and then I watched it the night the following night, and each time I cried. I cried.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cried. I can't. And then I was looking at people's reactions on YouTube. A couple friends of mine, they all cried. Like, it's such an emotional last 10-15 minutes. Like, and
Mhm.
it was so good. So good. I don't know if you want to get into the episode.
Yeah, we can. We can. Because I mean, I agree with you. I had been warned because I did come to it a few days late. I wasn't able to watch it the day it came out. So I'd been warned, but I still wasn't prepared.
Okay.
And again, it's a beautiful hour of TV. I think it's as perfect a series finale as you could possibly ask for. Because,
Mhm.
as you already said, like they give us closure on everyone in a really satisfying
Right.
way. I mean, even Sam Lane, who he exits what, episode 3, somewhere like that, where
3 or 4, I think.
and
Yeah.
and I feel like the way they did that was really creative. Of yeah, this is how he dies, but he goes out knowing that he can save Superman's life, and it's his heart that goes to Superman,
Mhm.
which is enough to bring Superman back, but it also means that it's not Superman's heart, and now he has the same life expectancy as the rest of us. So I thought that was like so unique, and but boy was it effective. Um, but even that is kind of a beautiful way to say goodbye to his character, of, like, yes, he dies, but he dies protecting his family. and he dies giving his life for his son-in-law, who he knows is going to take care of his daughter. Like it's a really beautiful ending for him. And then we get one last nod, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head. Like it was General Sam Lane giving up his life for his daughter. Like that was, and not just his daughter, but for Clark and everyone in Smallville. Like that was he was a true hero. And yeah, like that. Like that last episode, you could break up into 3 parts. They had 3 things to do in that final episode in 44 minutes. To tell it in that you had to wrap up the Doomsday Lex thing in the first 20 minutes, 10-15 minutes. And like I'm looking at some of my notes that I wrote. The fight between Lex and Superman was fantastic.
Yeah, that first, I guess, 20 minutes, I'll take your word for it, but that first 20 minutes is just a really badass and impressive Superman action sequence, right? Like of him and Doomsday again. And then just when he manages to take care of Doomsday, in comes Lex with the power suit. And I'm sorry, I'm a nerd. I love Lex in the power suit.
Yes.
I've been waiting for Lex in the power suit in live action for years and years and years, and we still hadn't got it until now. And again, they tease it earlier in the season, somewhere in the middle of the season, where Lex's assistant, I can't remember her name. I always want to call her Mercy because she seems like Mercy, but she's not Mercy. Where she says, we have to get you a killer suit. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I love that, they do both. They get him in a killer suit. They finally clean him up and shave that damn beard.
Right.
And then he gets the power suit. And so it's not just the Superman has to get the best of Doomsday. He then has to fight Lex. And that is really awesome too. So you're right. Like what a 1-2 punch of just an action packed first half of this finale.
Yeah. And I love how Lana and, John Henry come in and help. Like everybody's coming in and helping. You have the twins helping with getting Doomsday away from Main Street, and Clark laying there on the ground, and Lois trying to wake him up. Wake up, Clark! You gotta help your boys. And he freaks out because he doesn't want his boys to help at all. Like I love that.
Well, and even what about the wonderful moment of Jordan? And you mentioned it earlier, but I also think Jordan is one of the highlights of this entire series. I just love his character, and he's so sympathetic and conflicted, but he's great. But there's that moment where he's with the owner of the diner, and she's having a panic attack, and he has lived that and knows exactly how to help her. And I just thought, like, what a wonderful, heroic moment that is not a big, explosive moment.
Right. But that's a moment that goes back to the first episode when he has his panic attacks and when his heat vision goes off for the first time. Like that was another, like, so many wonderful callbacks. And I love Lois out there on Main Street, yelling at people, okay, get to safety. And then when John Henry and Lana come with the kryptonite bomb, she goes up to Lex, not even thinking, like, hey, Lex, here I am. If you want to kill me, come and kill me. And she puts the bomb on his chest, and like, that was a great moment. Like
that was badass. I absolutely love that, of being like, well, Superman's unavailable, so Lois is going to do it herself. I love that.
And that, like, and then the stuff with Doomsday, like when Superman brings Doomsday to the sun, that moment of like realization for Doomsday, well, really Bizarro, that like what has happened, it was, I don't know how you want to say it. It was more like, okay, like I'm ready to go. That look like, okay, I know what I've done is wrong, but if you could forgive me. And Superman pushes him into the sun. Like just that was a great moment of him. Like he was lost in that monster, and him finally waking up and seeing, like, you are me, I am you. And that's it. And like, take care of everything. Like, that was that moment. But yeah, I thought the wrap up with Lex and Doomsday, that storyline, I thought was really well taken care of, I thought, in that episode.
Well, and when they're, trying to get everybody to safety, and there's the girl who works in the convenience store, and she's kind of watching, but at the same time, she needs to get to safety. I turned to Catherine. I'm like, I'd be so conflicted if that was me, because I'd be like, well, I want to watch, but it's probably dangerous, but I really want to see this.
But that was so cool. Like when Jonathan caught the car in front of her, that was amazing.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, like on a TV budget, they did all this stuff, and it was just really amazing. Like,
Yeah. And
that,
again, giving the boys something to do, giving them active roles in this big finale, it was really nice to see them come into their own.
And then Jordan saving Jonathan after Jonathan got thrown into the one building, and then him worried about his brother. Wake up, and he uses his powers to wake him back up. And
Yeah.
for them to embrace and say, "Don't ever leave me again," like that was a moment too, because like to have two brothers like finally understand each other, one who didn't have powers and the other one had powers, and the one jealous of the other one for a long time, and now they're both equals, and they both have the responsibility now of taking up their father's mantle. Like that's pretty big shoes to fill, the man to fill.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was such a great moment between the two of them.
Yeah, though, I mean, yeah, the big finale was really great, and you said there's three parts. Is the second part the wedding?
Yeah,
Is that what you consider the
yeah,
wedding?
I'm looking at my notes. The when they flash forward to a year later with Lana and John Henry getting married.
Yeah, it's funny. So as I'm watching it, like I'm still chasing around a toddler, and so I'm watching, but there was something going on with Harley where I was kind of, I wasn't focused for a second, and I missed the 1 year later part. So I look up and it's like the Lana John Henry wedding, and because I missed the 1 year later, I was like, whoa, what the heck is going on here? And I had to rewind it, and I was like, oh, okay, 1 year later, I got it. Okay, we're good. Because I got so confused because they're like, oh, looks like you're having another boy. I was like, wait, when was the first one born? I was like, what did I miss? So anyway, word to the wise, try to watch it without chasing a 2-year-old. But once I saw that it was 1 year later, I got it. And then I kind of saw where they were going, of being like, oh, okay. So we wrapped up the conflict with Doomsday and Lex, the immediate threat to kind of create this, okay, that chapter is closed, but now, because it's the finale, it's time for us to see where everyone ends up. And so, yeah, that 1 year time jump, it was unexpected, but I mean, we love Lana and John Henry. Like, what amazing versions of those two characters this show gave us. I think they're both just great. And when they started pairing up, I didn't see it coming, but then I was like, oh yeah, I'm good with that. I just love them both so much. And so it was a really nice, happy thing for them.
Yeah. I thought they were perfect. Like those two actors in those roles were absolutely perfect. And like I teared up seeing Clark and walk Lana down the aisle.
Yeah.
It's just perfect. That was, but what really got to me as a lifelong Superman and Superboy fan was when Lana leans over in Clark's ear and says, "Thank you for always being my best friend." And oh my God, I teared up because like just the different versions of the characters and Lana like going off and finally having her life and being the mayor of Smallville, and she was just as strong as Lois in this.
Well, yeah. When she stands up to Lex earlier in the season, like that was awesome, and then she pays for it. But yeah, right. it was so cool to see Lana come into her own as well, because I love this version of Lana.
Yeah, both like you said, both Lana and Lois, they don't take crap from anybody. Like,
yeah,
and yeah, it's great to have Superman around to save you, but you know what? If worst comes to worst, they can handle themselves.
Yeah.
But I definitely teared up because, like I said, and we never got that on Superboy, where Clark tells Lana that he's Superman or Superboy. So to see that in this version, and to see that play out over the course of the last couple years of their lives, like and for Lana to acknowledge, like, thank you, even though even though like Clark lied to her for so long, like, to acknowledge, like, Clark, thank you for always being there for me. Like,
Yeah.
that was great, and that played, like I said, this series just doesn't encompass the last couple of years of Superman's life. This encompasses like his whole history, like
Mhm.
and that's what I loved about this show. Like, um, and it was just that was just such a wonderful moment between those two characters.
Yeah, so here's my other nitpick, and maybe it's just my own fault, is through the entire wedding and reception, I never saw Sarah until the scene when Jordan goes outside to talk to her. Am I crazy? Was Sarah not there?
Yeah, she was there, but she didn't want to go in the barn. Like there
So,
was
but like in the wedding scene, like they show the audience. I was looking for Sarah. I never saw her.
Yeah, I didn't see her either. That was weird.
I feel like this was one of those things where it was like, oh, they only had her for one day of shooting,
Mhm.
and so they used it for the scene with Jordan to give that little story some closure. And so they imply she was at the wedding, but I swear I'm like, oh no, there's Kyle, there's Chrissy, there's the younger daughter, but where the hell's Sarah?
Right. And then the line of dialogue, like, it's bad luck for me to go in there because bad things happen.
Yeah, yeah. We also joked about like I feel like Clark and Lois just need to start a wedding planning business because how many
Yeah.
weddings have happened in that barn?
Weddings, parties, yeah, they should have their own, like,
It's a
right,
venue,
it
at
is,
this
it's a
point.
venue.
Just yeah,
Mhm.
put up that barn as a venue, and you guys will be good. Pay for that Daily Planet, or not the Daily Planet, the Smallville. What is it? The Smallville Inquirer or something.
And then, like, I thought the moment between Lana and Kyle, like, the final
That
day
was
episode
yeah, that was great.
was very well done. I mean, I and I loved what he said, "You are Smallville." What
Yeah.
Lois said at the wedding was that you are the heart of Smallville, and when Kyle said it to Lana, it was really nice. I thought Kyle, for being to start out a real jerk in the series,
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
out to be one of the hearts of the show. Like, and just a good guy. Like that's I thought he did a really good job in this last episode.
Well, and did you see that the actor Eric Valdez, he got a tattoo that says it went by so fast?
I did see that.
Like how cool is that? Like I
Yeah.
love that. I thought that was really great. And yeah, you're right. Like I mean, Kyle he was created in season 1 to hate. Like I mean, that's why he was there. Like to be a bit of a foil for Clark, not for Superman.
Mhm.
And it worked because yeah, that first season you're like, God, he's such a dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then yeah, like you see because of 4 seasons, you see more sides to him, and by the end, you're like, you know what? I'm so glad he and Chrissy are happy. I'm so glad that Lana and John Henry are happy. Like
Mhm.
we want to see them all be happy.
Oh, and I love the moment between John Henry and his daughter, like,
Mhm.
being from the other world, where they're out, in front of the barn looking up at the stars, and she's going, "This is not our world, but you know what? Like, we've finally, I've adopted it as ours because of
Mhm.
all the good people and the people of Smallville and Clark and Lois taking us into their lives and making us a part." I love what Lois said, that, when she was marrying John Henry and Lana, that, like, she couldn't imagine these two people not being in their lives. Like, I mean, that was just another moment that really hits home what's important, with
Yeah.
these characters.
Yeah, I mean, well, and they, it's interesting because they decided kind of late in the game to make this detached from the rest of the Arrowverse, the CW verse, whatever.
Mhm.
And at the time, even now, I'm like, I don't know, but what it allowed them to do was to create this whole new family for Clark and Lois. And I really love that this final episode leans into that. And to the point where, we get a moment where it says, oh, we continued to do what's right. We continued fighting. And it shows Superman and his 2 boys, Jordan and Jonathan, plus John Henry, plus John Henry's daughter, all flying in
Yeah.
costume, and that got spoiled for me before I watched the series.
It
Yeah,
got
I was so mad. And especially because here's the thing:
Mhm.
if I had waited a week to watch it, I wouldn't have been mad. Hell, if I had waited 48 hours, I wouldn't have been mad.
Uh-huh.
But it aired
Yeah.
And that screenshot was posted
Everywhere.
while it was airing. And I was like, guys, like, you can even just give it a few hours. Like, come on. But regardless, I love that there is this new super family and we only get a glimpse of them, but oh, what a badass glimpse.
Is there a part of you, Andy, that wishes Melissa Benoist's Supergirl just showed up in that?
I mean, that would have been cool. I didn't think about it, but again, because I already kind of accepted that this was its own thing, but yeah, that would have been cool.
Just for a second. I mean, she didn't even have to have a line of dialogue. Just her flying with them, I think, would have been cool. I know there's fans out there have done an edit of that, and it looks cool. But yeah, like what you said, I think him having his own family, like his own super family, and nobody else really from the Arrowverse in there. I think I would have been. I don't know if I'd be disappointed, but if Grant Gustin showed up or Melissa Benoist showed up, it would kind of take me out of it.
That's just it. Yeah, is like I understand why it would have been cool, but I think it would have distracted from the moment instead of it being what it needed to be.
Right.
So right. I get why they just kind of kept it pure and left it the cast of this show. I love that they threw Steele's cape on. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for 4 seasons, I was like, okay, when are we going to do something about his helmet? The helmet worked in season 1 when it was like a misdirect, but he's been Steele now. At least let's do something about his helmet. And they never did, which makes me sad. But then the actor who played John Henry, Wole Parks, he posted a photo of being like, a lot of people asked if I was ever going to get a real Steel suit. And here's a costume fitting. We were working on it and it just didn't happen. And the one that he shared was pretty darn good. Yeah, it's such a bummer that they weren't able to show it off in the show. But honestly, the one that was in the show, I had no issue with it except for the helmet, because the helmet looked, like an insect or something. Yeah. But it is one of those things that like it kind of hurts of being like, oh, we would have gotten it if we just gotten another year.
Or just another episode. Come on.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I think the moment after the wedding, I thought was very poignant. Like finding out, like Lois getting that text from, I forgot who it was, but one of her reporting buddies says that Lex's appeal has fallen through. And then Clark being in the kitchen, she comes in, and Clark and Lois having that moment about talking about legacy, I thought was an amazing moment. Like,
well, yeah, especially because that launches into the montage to come of like, what that legacy means, and then them realizing of like, yes, Superman and his super family, they're going to go out there and stop bad guys, but we have to do more. And to use that as inspiration to create programs that are going to help more people in a bigger way than just, stopping a bad guy who's trying to blow something up. Like, what a great, I guess, just arc for Superman and Lois of being like, we can do more and we should do more.
And I never, as a lifelong Superman fan, I never liked the new motto, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. But they made it work in the moment organically. Like, that's like, I mean, it's always been truth, justice, in the American way. And like, Superman is not just an American character.
Yeah.
And I could see why they revised it. Okay. So like when Clark says to Lois, what do you think Superman and Lois are going to be remembered for? That worked in that moment. It was beautifully done. Very, very well done. And I loved what they did in the epilogue. Like that was fantastic. And let's get into the epilogue.
I don't know if I can. I really don't know.
For 15-20 minutes.
Because I was good. I was like, yeah, this is really good. They're doing such a great job. And then we get into the epilogue, which I did not expect. Thank goodness that wasn't ruined for me.
Thank God.
But I'll tell you, oh my God, what a beautiful gut punch.
Yeah.
So well done, so beautiful, so heartwarming and heart-wrenching. And I'll be honest, it stayed with me for days afterwards. I couldn't shake it. Just because frankly, it's something we all have to face, and making us face it through the lens of Superman was very brave, very bold,
Mhm.
and so effective.
It was you said it best. We all have to confront our mortality in one way or
Yeah.
another. There's no we come into this world alone, we leave alone. And like for Clark, like it was the literally the opening words of the opening line of dialogue in Superman and Lois is, I came into this world alone. Like,
Hmm.
and like it was but it's what you do in between those moments between when you're born and when you die that makes life worth living for. And
Yeah.
that's what this episode really hit home. And like the I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I mean, you're right.
But I think to see Clark uh and the themes of the last two seasons of mortality and learning to accept your mortality and learning that sometimes you powers just like we learned in Superman the movie, powers are great, but you know what, they can't stop the natural course of things.
Yeah. And that's just it. Is again, the showrunner said we were going to do the death of Superman, and so we did the death of Superman y'all were thinking about with Doomsday.
Mhm.
But then we did the real death of Superman. What happens for real? What happens at the end?
Right.
And it's like, well, Superman is always mortal. We don't know how long he lives for, but he's not immortal. But in order to make this story work, they gave him that new heart, which meant now he has a normal human life expectancy. And what does he do with the rest of his time? And like you said, what really truly matters?
Mhm.
And I get choked up just thinking about it. Like the stuff with the family and the kids and the grandkids. Oh my God. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
was beautiful, but it was intense of him. And I loved when he said, these were like wonderful days and we didn't take one for granted.
Mhm. And I love Tyler's narration throughout the course of it. And he says the most important things in life are friendship, joy, hope, forgiveness. Like those are but the most important thing is love,
Mhm.
you know? And we never really got to see, and I think the best thing in that heaven like experience that, or his afterlife experience that he's going through, is all the best things that he connected with over the course of his life. His
Yeah.
boys, Lois, finding love with Lois, Lex sitting at the kitchen table crying, and Clark going up to him and putting his hand on his shoulder and saying, I forgive you. I forgive you. Even though you tried to kill me over the course of my entire life, I forgive you. But I mean, Lex too had, I think that was the other thing about Lex, is that he had moments where he could have redeemed himself in this
Yeah.
series with his daughter, with LexCorp, with all these things in his life where if he just would have let it go,
Yeah.
learn to let go. And I
Yeah.
think that was the other big thing, is that sometimes you just have to let go of things. As much as you want to control or think you can control something, you can't. And I think that was another theme in Superman and Lois, is that if you control, it will cause you great pain. And Lex had great pain from his
Mhm.
childhood all the way through. And if he just would have learned to let go and accept the people around him who loved him, even though he was a maniacal, crazy, crazy person, obsessive to no end, there was people that wanted to see him succeed and wanted to see him happy. And Clark doing that to the worst enemy, his worst enemy, putting his hand on his shoulder, it just goes to show you, no matter what Clark or Superman, that's what Superman stands for. He will never give up on anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, just, we do sort of a speed run through the rest of their lives, but it was so well done of him talking about just like the moments with Lois were just so beautiful.
Mhm.
And then when he lost her, and
Oh yeah.
that last moment of her saying daddy
Mhm.
was amazing. And I remember the showrunners even said they're like, yeah, we would have loved to have shot Dylan Walsh. We would have loved to have shot Dylan Walsh for that final moment, but we were out of time. And I was like, no, I think it works better without it, honestly. Like, I didn't need to see ghostly
Yeah.
Sam Lane. Like, just her saying daddy as she passed was like beautiful. And yeah, like like all the moments with the family and what truly mattered and not taking any of it for granted, I just think was so well done. And go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, and then what really got me was when he said, the first time I died, there was nothing and I was back. And then he's like, the second time I died, doesn't he say it was beautiful?
Yeah, there was light. There was light.
Yeah. Like, and like that moment with his sons, just say it again, like just thinking about it, it gets me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like I said, like, and then when the boys open the door and there's Lois in her red dress, wow. That was a great moment. And Bitsy looked fantastic.
Yeah.
She looked fantastic. I'm trying to think what else we glossed over. Oh, when Lois passes and Clark gets the dog to keep him company.
Yeah.
I loved that. As a dog person, I loved that. And I loved that we got Crypto in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well,
and even like when it goes into that montage and he said something, we got 32 more years. And like just that, I was like, oh, what are you doing to me? What are you guys doing? Come on. Because like none of us know, but like knowing that and then seeing how it all played out. But you're right, like when he dies and he gets up, it like at the end of it, it's about the people, it's about the love, it's about the relationships.
And like I said, like him with Lex, him with Kyle, and Beppo. What was her name? Chrissy Beppo.
Yeah.
Like them like being there, and Kyle bumping fists with Clark, and him like just going through his life and embracing all the people that made it what it was, and just like what he said, the love for others and the compassion for your fellow man. That's what you take out of Superman. That S shield, to me, like, it means more than just hope. It means connection. It means a connection between all of us. Even though this man has powers, he is one of us. And that to strive for a better world, to help your fellow man, and continue to fight for what's right in this world, no matter the circumstances. Either if you don't have powers or you do have powers, or like I think that's what I take away from Superman and Lois, is that S shield and Clark and these characters are us. They're us.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and that final sequence and that final statement is so powerful, because that's just it. It's like, no, we're talking about Superman. We're talking about the hero of the planet, the most powerful being on the planet. And at the end of it all, he has to look back and consider what really matters. And like you said, that's all of us. We all have to do that. And it's just it's a very effective reminder of that.
Yeah, and it was it went by way too fast.
Yeah. Right. And like what a perfect statement, what a perfect title for the final episode of. And my God, if it isn't true, it went by so fast.
It did. And I can't say enough about Tyler Hoechlin, Bitsy Tulloch, Michael Cutlass, everybody on the cast. Like they did something that a lot of Superman projects have failed to do. Like, I mean, I don't want to poo-poo on Justice League or what has come before, but they did something that for years we have heard over and over. How do you make Superman relatable? How do you make him relatable? How do you execute a really good Superman story? Well, they did it. Todd Helbing did it. And I don't know if you want to talk about the James Gunn movie that's coming out next year for a little bit, but it's got big shoes to fill.
It
It's
does.
it's
It
got
does. And that's just it, is like, like we kind of said at the beginning, is like, there have been a lot of different versions of Superman. I have loved most, if not all of them.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't try to put them up against each other, but
Mhm.
I think Superman and Lois really just stands as a very unique version that is also somehow incredibly respectful and true to the core of the character, all of these characters and their relationships. And so I think that we all agree, and even the cast themselves agree, that it's a shame it was only 4 seasons. But on the other side of that is, like, I am so grateful we got 4 seasons,
Right.
and those 4 seasons were all very good to amazing. And season 4, I would say, is pitch perfect. And again, with one of the best series finales I've ever seen in my life, where, just talking about it again dredges it all up, and I can't quite shake it. And I'm sure a lot of that, is, again, the personal aspect of being like, yeah, okay, we were watching Superman go through it, but it's going to be my time at some point, and
Right.
you've got to reflect on that. But what a brave and beautiful finale to a really great Superman story.
Mhm. I agree. It was everything that you wanted in a Superman series, from action to story to the fantastic to, I mean, you got you got to see the Fortress of Solitude, like, full flesh. It was so cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, just trying to think some of the other things, but like the Bizarro World, we never got Bizarro World before ever on screen. Like,
Mhm.
that was fantastic. Like, just some of the things the show did. I remember talking to another fellow Superman fan who has since passed, but like, he told me, he goes, Sam, like, the boys, like, and when the show first started, the boys, Jonathan and Jordan, like, we're gonna do Smallville all over again. Like, I don't like this. I'd rather just focus on Superman and Lois. But you know what? They grew on you. Like,
Yeah, they absolutely did. I think they were excellent.
mm-hmm. And
And it's funny, when it first started, I was really afraid that when Jordan, who was the son who had some, issues, and when he developed powers, I was like, please don't tell me you're going to make Jordan the villain. Like, I don't
right.
want that. And I'm so glad they didn't, but because what they did was, I think, so much better, of just him coming to his own and learning who he is and how to live with the challenges he has, as opposed to letting those define him, I think was a much better and more hopeful story. So you're right. Like,
Mhm.
all those different aspects were done in a way that I thought were really rewarding by the time it was said and done. And this is a bad time to bring it up. I should have brought it up at the beginning, but before I forget, um, on the last episode, someone had written in and said, "Oh, they did onomatopoeia in Superman and Lois," and I went, "What? I've watched every episode. When did they do onomatopoeia?" And someone was like, "Oh, Pia, the woman who was doing cancer treatments with Lois." I was like, "Oh, she was
Oh,
supposed to be onomatopoeia." I never picked up on that,
yeah, I
not
did either.
once. Didn't cross my mind. So when someone said that character was in the show, I went, "Where? How did I miss it?" Well, she was in the show a lot, season 3, but
Mhm.
I never once realized she was supposed to be onomatopoeia.
Yeah, I
So
didn't get that either. Oh my god.
yeah, well, I'm glad. I feel better because it's not just me then. But I was
Yeah.
like, because yeah, I would have known. And they called her Pia, but I would have never known. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it was worth acknowledging, because I'm sure people listened and went, she was the villain in most of season 3. I'd be
What?
like,
Yeah.
but she's so different than what I would have expected. So,
Oh my god. Did you get the foundation that Lois and Clark created, like, in the last episode? Did you get the name of it?
I can't remember, but what was
It
it?
was For All Seasons.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was a nice little Easter egg.
Yeah,
Cool Easter egg. But yeah, like, God, I love that the show. I hate to see it go, but you know what? I love that it's going out on top,
exactly. Yeah,
and they got their 4 seasons in, and they got to tell a complete story,
yeah,
like you said earlier, like, season for the series to end with Clark or Superman and Doomsday on the moon and it fade to black. Oh my god, that would have been horrible. That would have been
yeah.
so bad.
Yeah, no kidding. So, yeah, kudos to the powers that be for at least giving them the chance to wrap things up in season 4. And I think, as we both agree, we're so impressed with how well they were able to wrap it up in a way that was satisfying and truly wonderful. I guess I really couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, same here. I as the lifelong Superman fan, like it was it was everything you wanted in a Superman series. It was everything you wanted in a finale. And like you said earlier, Andy, it didn't feel rushed. It felt organic. It felt all the payoffs, all the storylines were wrapped up in a way that felt satisfying. Um, and that ending, I think if I was to show a regular comic book fan or a regular fan who knew nothing about Superman, I think I would show the first 5 minutes of the pilot, the prologue, and I'd show the epilogue, and I go, "This is what Superman's all about."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, because this character, there has been so many stories, so many different iterations of the character. I mean, you got Absolute Superman, another iteration out in the comic books that's doing extremely well. Maybe in a few years we'll get that depiction of Superman on film. Who knows? But like,
I'm hoping we'll get it next year
or next year. But you know what? As a Superman fan, this was the most human we've seen the character, the most heart, the most relatable. And I hate saying it, but it's the truth. Everybody like says you can't make Superman relatable. Well, they did. And this is a perfect example. Like if somebody comes up to you, so, "Oh, Superman's boring. Superman's not relatable." Here you go. Here's 4 seasons. Talk to me after the 4 seasons.
Yeah.
That you watch. So
yeah. And again, for anybody who didn't take the dive in, and I get it, there's a lot to watch, put it on your New Year's resolution list for 2025 is to go through Superman and Lois. 4 seasons will go by quickly, but they're an incredibly satisfying 4 seasons that led to one of the best final seasons I can even think of. So just kudos all around. And I think that you and I both agree. So I think that's a good place to put a bow on it. So I hope everybody, if you've watched Superman and Lois, what a run. And again, what a truly satisfying finale. I'm so impressed with what they were able to pull off.
Absolutely. It was fantastic, and it went by way too fast.
It went by too fast, yeah. Or it went by so fast. It went by so fast.
Bullet.
But oh my God, man. So, Sam, I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen. It was worth the wait. Thank you for making the time to share your love and your passion for Superman, the character, and Superman and Lois, the show. It was a pleasure to finally be able to chat for real and not just over Messenger.
Yeah, exactly. Andy, thank you so much for having me on the Holy BatCast. Like, thank you.
Of course. And I don't, is there anything that you want to plug? Any places that people can find you?
You know what? I'm actually working on a couple different podcasts right now. I'm working on the Rizzo project that's going to highlight friends, family, and other content creators. Like I'm kind of working on that at the moment. So
okay.
Like I have a couple episodes in the can. I have an episode with Aaron Price from talking about Superman 4 and getting that the restoration on that. I have a couple other things that I'm working on as well. So no Superboy stuff. And I'm trying to think what else I'm and just traveling. I've been traveling a ton. So
wow, that's okay. That's all right. Any socials where people can follow you, or
you can follow me at Sam J Rizzo on Instagram and on Facebook. Yep.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, Sam, it was a pleasure. Again, thank you so much. And let's do this again sometime. I am very curious to hear your thoughts on the Superman film, but there's going to be plenty of time to talk about that in the future. Today, I really just wanted to celebrate Superman and Lois.
Awesome, Andy. Thank you for having me on again. And it was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Of course. It was my pleasure. Pleasure was all mine. All right, lots of good things to say about Superman and Lois, but especially that finale. Wow. I mean, truly just fantastic storytelling. And again, huge thank you to Sam Rizzo for coming on, joining me and chatting about Superman. It was really great to catch up with him, and he shared a lot of great insights, so I really appreciated that. But I'm not ready to say goodbye just yet. Hang out, guys, because I want to answer some of your questions, some of your emails. Let's see what's up with you fine feathered finks and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It is time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren. What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
All right. Like I said, I got quite a few emails piling up, and y'all know that the schedule for the podcast has been a little sporadic, a little up and down, and I want to keep up on these because before I know it, it's going to be so overwhelming, I'm not going to be able to answer it all. But for today, you just get me, and I hope you'll be okay with that. So first email here comes from our old pal, Stephen Marshall. Speaking of Superman fans, Stephen's one of the biggest ones. He says, "Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I'm just catching up on some past episodes that I missed during spooky season, and the most recent one I listened to was your Justice League Mortal episode. I long felt this is the biggest missed opportunity for DC on film ever. I really think this film would have opened the comic book floodgates the way the Avengers ended up doing. One thing I wanted to respond to was I agreed with what you said, Andy, about the heroes all being introduced and getting immediately incapacitated. Maybe a solution to that would have been to open the film with each hero, or maybe one or two paired up, taking down some supervillains. Thoughts? And who are some of the lower tier villains you'd have liked to see the heroes take down? Also, I wanted to point out that we have seen the Kent farmhouse in the fortress before. Much like the superhero-themed restaurants, it's taken directly from Kingdom Come, which was hugely influential on Justice League Mortal. Anyway, that's all for me. Take care. Kind regards, Steven." Steven, thank you so much. Great to hear from you. And Justice League Mortal. I do want to live in the alternate timeline to see what that film would have been like and what it would have done, and to see if people would have been ready for something like that at that time. It's definitely one of those that, like, we all just look and go, what if that had happened? And I like you, I'm still kind of bummed that it did not happen, but this is the timeline we're living on. But it would have been very interesting. First thoughts, I totally agree with you. I think that if they had done another rewrite, I think you'd want to open the movie with the heroes, taking down some supervillains and being introduced as to who they are and what they're capable of before they start getting taken down. So, yes, I absolutely agree that would have been a great way to do it. Also, it would just sort of hooked you as soon as you started watching the movie of, like, you sit down and all of a sudden, boom, threat, and here comes the Flash, and here comes Green Lantern, and so on and so forth. As for some of the lower tier villains we would have liked to have seen, man, that's a good question, because I do feel like it's one of those where you don't want to, like, use your big guns for a situation like that, but you want them to be, like, cool, recognizable villains that, would be exciting for fans to see. So, I don't know, like, I feel like in Metropolis, like, Parasite, for some reason, Parasite's in my head. And maybe it's because I can't imagine a movie that's built around the Parasite, but I also feel like he is major enough that you want to see him. So I feel like, for a Superman villain popping up for an intro like that, Parasite is the one that jumps to mind. For Batman, maybe it's just because it's front of mind because of our conversation with Sean last week and because of the recent announcement, but I'm thinking like Clayface for Batman. Like, that would be a fun introduction in Gotham, and Clayface is there, and we'd kind of get an understanding of what this Gotham is like. So yeah, I don't know, Star Sapphire could come in and that could be the Green Lantern one. But yeah, it's like, I don't even want to say lower tier. I just feel like the B-list villains who we love, but it's going to be a while if we ever see them in a movie at all. And those are the ones you want to deliver on. We've seen our Jokers and our Lex Luthors and our Cheetahs and all of those, but there's so many other great villains in the DC universe I'd like to see pop up. So I don't know. Those are the ones who jump to mind. Like for the Flash, I think Captain Cold, like that would be really cool. Something like that. So yeah, to see some of those villains pop up for an intro would have been really cool. And then thank you for the update on Kingdom Come. Like I've read Kingdom Come, and in fact, I read it, I want to say relatively recently, within the past few years, let's say that way. So I definitely remembered the superhero themed restaurant, I didn't remember the Kent Farm being in the Fortress in Kingdom Come. So that's just my own faulty memory. So appreciate the heads up on that. So thank you, Stephen. Next email here is from Austin. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast team, I found myself on a recent Super Friends kick, which leads to my question. With this particular iteration in mind, if you could direct an episode, which super friend would you have work with each other, and who would you have them fight? One more quick question. I've been on a McFarlane Toys kick lately as well, and I wanted to know your favorite figure from the line. Have a great show. Looking forward to your answers." All right, thanks, Austin. Appreciate that. So, Super Friends, I gotta tell ya, I did finally buy the all-inclusive Super Friends mega set on iTunes on Black Friday. So I am looking forward to having my own Super Friends kick very, very soon as Christmas is over. Because right now, I'm watching Christmas stuff. But in the new year, yeah, I'm looking forward to digging in and watching Super Friends too. So a big thank you to, I can't remember if it was Eric or Joe from The Fire Rises who were like, "Hey, by the way, this is on sale." And I'm really glad because I bought it and I'm excited. So, which Super Friends would you like to have work with each other, and who would you have them fight? Man, like I mean, have them fight the Legion of Doom. Like, maybe that's an easy answer, but like, I just loved that collection of villains of the Legion of Doom in Super Friends. I know it kind of changed over the years. There's so many versions, but like, I loved that Darth Vader looking base that was in the swamp and them all sitting around the table. Like, I want to see that. And then I like to see them as a team, but as far as like teaming them up, oh man. I mean, any combination, you can't really go wrong, can you? Right? Like, Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman would be great. You know, Green Lantern and Aquaman would be great. The Flash and Superman would be great. They could run together. So yeah, I mean, but I also am pretty easygoing about teaming up heroes. I think it's fun regardless, and that's the fun of the Super Friends. I'll tell you what I would really want is I would love it to be like an A-list Justice Leaguer teamed up with a random super friend who showed up here and there. So like, I want Wonder Woman and Apache Chief to team up. You know, I want Superman and El Dorado to hang out. I want Cyborg and Black Vulcan to team up and hang out. So yeah, like some of those, Samurai and Batman and Robin, I don't know. But yeah, like I love some of those randos, and I know that, you know, I don't know if we can even call them real characters, but I love them because they were introduced when I was a little kid, so I didn't know the difference. And so I always appreciate when they pop up in like little nods or cameos or something like that. So yeah, that's what I would do. I would take one of the Justice League A-list and team them up with one of those Super Friend exclusives and have fun with that. And then the McFarlane toys, dude, same. I still buy way too many toys, and I have a little guilt about it, but then I remind myself it makes me happy, and there are far worse habits I could have. But I love their version of the superpowers that they've been releasing. And I think I've talked about this in the past. When I was little, I so badly wanted a Superpowers Batmobile, and I never got it. Every once in a while, I'll still check eBay, but no, I never got it. But when McFarlane did their Superpowers figures, then they also did some Superpowers vehicles, and they did their version of the Batmobile. I had to have it. So I got the classic blue and gray Batman. I got the classic red, yellow, green Robin, and I bought the Batmobile, and it all goes together, and they look so cool in it. So that's the one that jumps to mind. Maybe it's because you're talking Super Friends, and so that's what it makes me think of, but I was able to sort of make a dream come true from my childhood and get that Batmobile with that Batman and that Robin, and I love it. That Batmobile is a great design because it is certainly inspired by the one from the 80s, but it's a little more stylish, it's a little more curvy, it's just got a little more pizzazz, and I think it's awesome. And so that sits like on a shelf in my office, and Harley also loves that one. Like, of all the toys in my office, she's relatively respectful, but that's the one she always goes for. So I think she has good taste. So yeah, it's that classic Batman, Robin, and the Batmobile. For me, that was a purchase I don't regret at all. But McFarlane has so much good stuff that, like, I just have to pick and choose. I have to be careful because there's just so much. It's just so easy, and frankly, I'm out of room. So I've been trying to clean out room. I also, I guess it's worth mentioning, and I posted it on the Facebook page, is I got the McFarlane Batman 89 cowl, the full-size one. And I know they have the smaller ones, which are far more reasonable and far more convenient to find a spot for, but I had to get the life-sized 89 one. And it's great. It looks great, and I love it. Unfortunately, it pretty much took up the last bit of empty space in my office, but I'm not mad at all. And as far as I'm concerned, like $99 for that thing is a steal. And they're not sponsoring the show, and I'm not trying to get you to spend any money, but when I bought it and it came, I was like, you know what? I regret nothing. This thing is so cool. But for those asking, it's not wearable. Nope. It's like hard plastic. So it looks great displayed, but you can't even try to put it on. So it's fine. It's fine with me. But yeah. Anyway, so thank you for the questions, Austin. Appreciate it, and hope you're doing well. Next message here is from Benjamin. It says, "Hey, casters of the Bat. Andy, if you haven't possibly talked about Sergeant Rock yet, I remember you liking the Sergeant Rock DC Showcase animated short from 2019, also featuring the Creature Commandos. I think it's fair to assume the connection to the new Creature Commandos animated series, being that actors will be going back and forth between animation and live action. And speaking of Frankenstein, have you seen the Guillermo Frankenstein set photos? Holy crap. May your Thanksgiving be batty and spiced with nothing but pumpkin, Benjamin." Thanks, Benjamin. And Thanksgiving was wonderful. We had it here at home. Catherine's parents were here because we still have the new baby and he's too little to take anywhere. And it was nice. It was fun to actually have Thanksgiving in our house. It was the first time we've ever done it. We usually travel for Thanksgiving. So appreciate that. I had heard murmurs about Sergeant Rock, and I guess I will say what I said when that animated short came out. I wasn't looking forward to it because for me, I'm just, and it's just my personal preference, I'm just not interested in comics that are just like war movies in comic form. It doesn't do anything for me. Like I like comics because of superheroes and fantasy and, maybe some horror, but like as far as something as realistic as just soldiers in a war, I'm just not that into it. So when the Sergeant Rock animated short came out, I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll watch it, but I didn't have very high hopes for it. Again, not that it would be bad, it's just not for me. And then it featured the Creature Commandos, and I was like, never mind, this is awesome. I love it because Sergeant Rock doing something more fantastical and comic booky, like either teaming up with the Creature Commandos or coming to blows with the Creature Commandos, that could be a lot of fun. So that's how I feel. It's like, if it's a very straightforward war movie starring Sergeant Rock, it's not really my jam. But if it is Sergeant Rock facing something that's going to be a little more fantastical, a little more comic booky, I am open to that. But I guess what you're asking is, now with the Creature Commandos animated show, do you think that will somehow connect with Sergeant Rock? And I mean, the answer is only time will tell. I hope, because again, I feel like that would be the best of both worlds. I think that would be a lot of fun. But so far, I still need to watch episode 3, but 2 episodes in, there's no indication that Sergeant Rock is part of this, but we shall see. So yeah, I guess it's just wait and see. And then the Frankenstein photos from Guillermo del Toro, I saw a little bit, and yes, I am very excited. I love Frankenstein. I love Guillermo del Toro. It seems like a match made in heaven. So I'm all for it. I can't wait to see it. Thank you, Benjamin. Hope you're doing well. And I hope you had a great Thanksgiving too. All right. This next message is our old pal Stuart from Guernsey. It says, "Hey guys, it's Stuart from Guernsey. After years and years of seeing and hearing Michael Uslan talk to almost anyone about how he managed to buy the rights to Batman and the struggle that came along the way, bringing him to the big screen, there's one question I have. He's extremely vocal about the development of what eventually became Batman 89, and the many ways the studio and producers tried to push it in a different direction to Uslan's vision. It sounded like he had final say in the pushback when they tried to take it down a more comedic route. I listened to his audiobook where he mentions a lot about 89, but after that, his role seems very blurred in the say-so and development of the movies. If he owns the rights to Batman, shouldn't he have a massive say-so in which director they choose, the tone, the story, etc.? I know he's not financing the films, but it sounds like after 89, they've kept him in the loop of what's happening and probably have a contract with him to keep Batman with Warner's and just give him a payout each time a movie or one featuring Batman is made. That's my guess, but I would love your input because of your knowledge of the nuts and bolts of the industry is far more greater than mine. Is this something that I've wondered about for a long time, so I hope you have a better insight. Anyway, I hope you're doing well and that baby Andy is settling well at home. Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. And I will say the same thing is, I have had the same question. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of whatever deal he has with Warner Brothers, but it absolutely does seem to be the situation that you're describing. Is he seemed to have a little more input and helped do a little more of the shaping of the project in Batman 1989, and then really hasn't had that since. And I don't know why. I wish I could tell you why. I wish I could tell you what the deal is. I've no clue. But it does feel like post 1989, starting with Batman Returns and then all the way through, he's still the executive producer, right? He's still the rights owner. He still gets paid, but it does feel like creatively he's not really involved. And I don't know why that is. I wish I had a better answer for you. I could certainly speculate, but I feel like would be guessing at this point. But I can tell you, well, let me tell you this. Executive producer is a title that runs a wide range of involvement. So a lot of times you'll see, oh, but they're the executive producer. And that could mean they are very involved. A lot of times I know that Steven Spielberg, when he's the executive producer of, say, a new Jurassic film, obviously he's not writing it, he's not directing it, but I know that he does take meetings and gives notes, and he is involved in the development of a new Jurassic film. And that's his role as the executive producer. But sometimes an executive producer credit means you put up some money, and so you get the credit, or there's some deal where you are involved, quote unquote, and you get the credit, but you actually have no involvement whatsoever, like other than your name in the credits. Sometimes an executive producer is someone who developed the project, and then the project died, and then it was resurrected, and then they were no longer involved, but they were still given a credit because they worked on some version of it at some point in time. My point is, executive producer could mean everything from heavily involved to not involved at all, and everything in between. And so, as far as Uslan, it seems like, he is happy to continue to have the deal with Warner's. He's compensated. To your point, it just doesn't seem he's all that involved with the actual development. I would love to ask him myself. I don't know how transparent he can be about something like that. I honestly don't know. But yeah, it's an interesting question, but I'll just say I've certainly noticed the same. And I'm sorry if that's not as informative as you hoped, but I'm just being honest with you. So thank you, Stuart, and always good to hear from you. All right, I'm going to do one more here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. This is from my old pal, Chris, the Objective Geek. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast crew, hope all is well. I'm emailing to say I bought the Quest 3S just to play Batman Arkham Shadows, and the emailer's review was that good. So let me add, I've played all the Arkham games multiple times, and I think this game is a legit great game, not just a gimmick. I put in like 6 hours and about 40% of the way through. It holds up to the legacy of the franchise, adding in new lore and perspectives to the universe. And this is the closest you will feel like Batman, short of putting on a costume and jumping off your roof. At the risk of sounding like a Metabot, you can currently get a $75 gift card with the purchase. Side note, if you get wheezy or lightheaded playing VR, play with a fan blowing in your face. It helps. I feel like I need a question, so if you could have a VR game of any movie besides Batman, what would it be? Keep up the great work, Chris." Hey, Chris, thank you. Great to hear from you. Happy holidays. So I have a story to tell. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell it. Maybe I can tell it. I don't know. Anyway, point is, a couple episodes ago, we got that email from our old pal Richard Webster, and he was very persuasive about the Meta 3S with Batman Arkham Shadows, and I was like, wow, this is really... I'm tempted. I haven't bought it, but I'm tempted. And then one showed up at my door, courtesy of Richard. And I know he didn't do it for the kudos, but it was one of the most generous things that a listener has ever done for me. And I was like, well, dude, you did not have to do that, but he did. And so I am also now the owner of a Meta 3S. Thank you to Richard, who is, a Batman in his own right. And I have also played Arkham Shadows, not as long as you, because I have a newborn, and newborns just, not respectful. Anyway, but I have played it, and it's amazing. And so what I want to do is I want to play through longer and deeper and get further into the game, and then I want to talk about it on the show. But I'll just tell you, just from what I have played, it is incredibly impressive. It's incredibly fun. And like you said, like it's the illusion of being Batman is so convincing, you know, and I can only imagine how dopey I look, like standing in the middle of my office, like punching nobody, but it's really, really good. So I am so excited to have it. And a big shout out to Richard for, being a heck of a generous Santa Claus this Christmas. But what an awesome gift, and what a very, very cool thing. And same, Meta ain't giving me a penny, but $300, I don't know, it's not cheap, but like for what this thing does, like it's shockingly impressive, and that's pretty affordable. But yeah, I really am just looking forward to having a little extra time to play Arkham Shadows, but the headset is amazing. So again, yeah, big kudos to the recommendation from Richard, and then being kind enough to make sure I got one. And then Chris, you said the same. It's really good. As for a VR game of other movies besides Batman, well, first of all, let's not get past Batman just yet, because like the Arkham universe I think is cool, but it's not one that I'm as invested in as gamers are. But I would love Batman games for like all the different versions. I want a Burton Batman VR game. I want a Nolan Batman VR game. I want a Snyder Batman VR game. I want to be able to play as every version in those worlds, because I just want to walk around those worlds. I just think that would be so cool. So I want that. And then I also want the rest of the Justice League. I want a Superman one. I want to fly around Metropolis, I want a Flash one. I want to run around Central City. So superheroes, all of them, select all. I want them all, because that would just be Aquaman underwater riding a shark. Like, well, come on, that'd be so cool. But okay, let's try to get away from superheroes. What other movies would I want to experience in VR? This one, there is one out there, but it's not exactly what I want it to be, and that's Jurassic Park. You all know Jurassic Park is my favorite movie of all time, so I want a true Jurassic Park game where I'm, running around Isla Nublar from the first film. There is a game out there, but like the artwork is like, it's like the cell shaded artwork, and it's not that it's not cool, but it's not exactly realistic, and so like I feel like that takes away from the immersion a little bit, because they went with a different art style. So I would say Jurassic Park. I would say also Halloween. Michael Myers. Being chased by Michael Myers in VR would be really fun. I'm just going with my favorite movies of all time. So yeah, my favorite movies of all time: Batman, Jurassic Park, Halloween, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth. Many years ago, I did do a VR demonstration at a convention, and it was when the Hobbit movies were coming out. And it was like I was in Smaug's lair with all the gold and everything. And that was so cool. And I was hoping that still existed in some way as like a demo for the headset, because I just wanted to do it again. It was more, it wasn't one you could interact. It was more of just a movie, but you could look around Smaug's lair, and then he comes and he talks to you. And I want some Middle Earth stuff on the headset. I think that would be amazing too. But I mean, the short answer, which is too late, I've already given a really long answer, is all of my favorite movies. I would love to have them as a game in VR, because you truly feel like you are there. And that's, we love escaping to those worlds through films. So we want to be able to walk around and interact in those worlds too. So thank you. Oh, Jaws. I'll just throw Jaws out there too. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Chris, and a big thank you to Richard out there. Again, I hope I didn't embarrass him, but I don't know. It was so sweet. I feel like I got to give him some credit. Anyway, Chris, Richard, you guys, happy holidays. Thank you all so much, and I do appreciate another recommendation for the meta, which I will just second. And as always, not all the emails are done. Still got a few left, but I'm spacing them out, because I do think that in the future I'm going to have to do a little more episodes like this, where I do a little bit by myself, and then I can bring in people for the main conversations, just because, again, juggling with the kids, I have to be able to record at weird hours. But hey, if that's what it takes to get the episodes out there, I know y'all will understand. So that's it for the Wayne Manor mailbox for now. If you've already sent something and you're like, wait, you haven't read it? I know. There's a few more here. But send it. Send your messages, your questions, your thoughts. Would love to hear them. You can send those to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. We'd love to hear from you. But that will do it for this episode of Holy BatCast, a very super episode. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for downloading the show. Please do follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and rate and review us. A nice review goes a long way. 5 stars makes my heart happy, so I would love if you could do that. It really does help me out, and it doesn't cost a thing. That would be awesome. Again, find the show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, again, that is Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by the talented Gaurav Venkateswar. You can find his work at gvtunes.com. So that will do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season out there. Soak in all the joy and family and friends and all the good stuff, the treats, the movies, all that stuff. Hope you're doing all of that right now, because it's going to be a whole nother year before Christmas comes around. So enjoy the holiday season. That is my homework to you. But you'll be hearing from me soon enough. Who knows when? It could be a couple days, could be a couple weeks. We don't know. But thank you guys for hanging in there, and I look forward to talking to you then. I'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.